Chair Ambrose, you're good to go. You're streaming live.
Thank you very much, Cade. Alrighty. This is your Chair Ambrose. I am calling the to order the February meeting of the Coastal Advisory Committee. This is a virtual meeting. I am now moving to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Charlie, would you like to say the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight?
Be happy to. Does everybody else want to mute?
Sure.
Oh, do we have a flag?
No, last time we had a flag at the city hall, but I don't have a flag here at work. Sorry.
I have a flag in my house. Hang on.
I have it, Charlie.
Okay, right hand over your heart. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, Gary, I'm recruiting you next time.
I know, Gary, that's quite the flag.
Cynthia, would you take roll call, please?
Okay, yes, roll call. Charlie Smith.
Here.
Chris Kaczynski. I don't see him yet. Joseph Zidron.
Here.
Gary McCacken.
Here.
Joreen Campopiano, Vice Chair. And Chair Susan Ambrose.
Here. Okay, let's move on to item 4, approval of minutes for January 14th. Does anybody have any comments on these minutes? I have just a couple here. I think we fixed those for November. Cynthia, I got those minutes from November from you today, and I did sign them.
Okay,
So
I can pick them up tomorrow.
that's fine. I'll have them up for you. So on page 2, Cynthia made the correction that was done last month or the month before. I actually can't remember. I think in January we did November and December both. But it's on page 2. So up at the top, she's got action items that she took related to page 1, 2, 5th paragraph, etc. This is on page 3, the 11th paragraph, and it was just the last sentence or the last line in that section to add, as she's done in the past, environmental related items and provided agenda handouts and links for additional information. And then same is true on page 4.
Page 4 of the minutes.
Yes. It's 8A.
Okay.
The same inclusion should be made. Agenda handouts and after provided.
So Chair Ambrose provided highlights from the following coastal environmental related items
And provided,
and provided,
insert the same that you did before, agenda handouts and.
got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then on page 3, I added in, I'm on the third paragraph. We're talking about the Orange County Coastal Coalition and replenishment projects and participation. So this is when Jareen was talking about it and mentioned that she had written a letter. And it just kind of sounds like out of the blue, she started reading out loud her letter. I'd like to include the fact that I asked her to do that. So in a response to a request from Chair Ambrose. So it fits in smoothly. And I think I might have just, and that's it for me. With those amendments, may I have a motion to move the minutes? Oh, Cynthia, yes.
Susan?
I have something on page 2.
Okay.
The 4th paragraph down, it's some corrections. It says page 2, 7th paragraph, change city manger to Randy Little, maintenance manager. I'm just going to change city, that should have been city manager to Randy Little. It was just a typo. Do you see that?
Page 2, yes, we discussed this as well.
But there's a typo in this.
In the name, and yes, right.
Just say, I'll change that to manager instead of manger. Okay.
Yes, and he's the maintenance manager, so you may want to insert that because that's critical to why we need him for the bottle refill station.
Yeah, and that's listed in there.
All right, great.
I just have one quick thing.
Yes.
So on page 3, paragraph 2, when we're talking about Chris Webb's presentation.
Yes,
So when it says he suggested the separate cities, county and state join together, I think he named a whole list of stakeholders that so it should say like local agencies as well, because I thought it included Orange County Transportation Authority and the railroad. There was a number of stakeholders.
well, he originally didn't include OCTA or the railroad. He originally included 9, and they were all from Capitol Beach or the County of Orange, California State Parks, the City of Dana Point, Capistrano Shores.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't say HOAs because HOA, there was. homeowners.
Yes, the San Clemente HOAs, and then he referenced, because Capitol Bay District's involved. And this was just a list. Are you suggesting that we include all those names, or are you just enlightening us?
No, I thought it should just be expanded that the group, because the coalition is not just the 3 agencies, it's a whole bunch of identified stakeholders.
So this is what I have. He suggested the separate cities, county, state, and local agencies join together to create a large-scale regional beach sand coalition. Is that how you want that reflected?
Well,
Yeah, unless, the only thing I would add is HOAs if,
that's right.
yeah, local homeowner associations and local agencies. And then I think that includes everybody.
Okay, I concur with that. Everybody else? Show of just a hand in the air. Yes? Gary?
Yes.
Joe? You're on mute. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Jareen. Anything else?
Nope.
No, we're good. Alrighty. I'd like a motion, please, to approve with amendments.
I'll motion to approve the minutes
With amendments.
with amendments.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Jareen Campopiano and seconded by Charlie Smith. Cynthia, kindly let me know when you're ready to go on.
Do you want to take the vote?
I'm sorry. Thank you for that reminder.
Mhm.
All in favor, raise your hand, please.
Aye.
That's 5-0, Cynthia. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All righty. Let us move on to public input. Cynthia, do you have any letters or notes to you?
Let me double check. emails just real quick.
Okay.
Oh, just closed out my email. Hold on, please hold. I have no public comment.
Alrighty, since there's no public comment, I will be closing public input. Moving on to old business. Cynthia, you've got the floor here. Sand replenishment updates, please.
Okay, hold on. This is tricky because I'm taking minutes too.
Well, just to enlighten everybody, you can look at our agenda. She's going to be talking about the status of the Federal Army Corps of Engineering project and state funding for the development of sand replenishment coalitions. So right up our alley. How timely.
Okay, sand replenishment updates. So, the Federal Army Corps of Engineers project is going to be delayed at least a year because the government did not appropriate the funds. So that's that update on the federal.
And did they give a reason why they did not appropriate? Was there a, no?
No.
Usually they cite another project that they thought was more worthy.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
Up at the
okay,
federal
that's
government, I don't know how that goes. You know.
Okay.
So yep.
And
So
is there
Cynthia,
some
just to
reason
be-
like,
Yeah,
are we,
Go ahead, Joe. Go.
yeah, are we just finding out that information like in February? I think they passed a full year budget like in, I don't know, I want to say it was November, December timeframe. Been a couple months since they passed the full year budget.
Yeah, that was going to be exactly my question.
Well, we reported in January. I'd heard from Tom Vonnegut, Public Works Director, that we had a schedule to start in this fall, but then about 2 weeks later, he informed me that they didn't appropriate the funds. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we, Cynthia, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but so that just means that basically we're just putting on hold all the sand replenishment work that we were hoping to get started?
well, at least for that project.
We still have something in new business coming up.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Cynthia, does that mean, when did you find out about the denial?
I don't know. Would you like me to go back and check my emails for the exact date that I received an email?
I was just-
Or actually, I don't even think I received an email. It was just a phone call from Tom. So 2 weeks
I was
ago.
just curious about the month.
2 weeks ago.
Okay, thanks. Well, that should answer both Charlie and Joe's question.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have more details on that. So
Oh, that's fine.
it looks like the schedule is going to be, oh, hold on. I think Eileen is trying to come in, so, okay. Welcome, Eileen. And so the state funding for the development of sand replenishment coalitions, I was going to pass that over to Joreen because that was going to be the report about OC Parks and them receiving grant funding. So Joreen, are you okay to report on that? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I could report on what has been happening with that. So actually, it was just yesterday. So yesterday we met. So it was OC Parks, Chris Webb, and sorry, my dog's in the background squeaking. He's playing with a toy. So we met with Congressman Levin's office. So there was 2 staffers there. And Chris Webb gave this pretty much the same presentation he gave us. And they were just trying to garner additional support. And OC Parks informed us that they did receive a grant from Prop 68 funding, kind of a formation of an Orange County coalition for beach nourishment. So I think that was in an amount of $250,000. So they are going to be spearheading that effort and leading that up. It still needs to be officially approved by the Ocean Protection Commission, which they said should be happening sometime next week, approval of the grant, but they anticipate that it will be funded and approved. And so that's all good news from us. And then Congressman Levin's office expressed support for a regional beach nourishment coalition, and said that they would throw their weight behind, really anything that they could bring from the federal side.
Good job. I've been communicating for a couple months now with Terry Van Horn. I believe she was in that meeting.
Yes, she was, and she had
Yes.
mentioned.
So about what was happening and how we were hoping to go. And I wanted to give her a heads up on our January meeting and our decision to try to support the regional effort. So I'm so glad that got going and you were in there, Jareen. And good. So keep us posted, please. Thank you. Any questions for Jareen? Well, I've got one quick one. The 250K is coming from what funding organization? What funding
It's the
mechanism?
Ocean Protection Council's, I believe it was their Prop 68 funding.
Okay.
And
Thank
then,
you.
my only follow-up question is just based on our recommendation that we're going to council. So do they not see our recommendation until the minutes are finalized, or when does that go up to them?
Well, that goes up after they've got so many things on their agenda right now. I think they're booked till like mid-March. And yes, they would have to see our minutes. Yes. Cynthia, would you like to comment on that, please?
Yeah, Tom Vonnegut, right after your meeting, asked what your recommendation was. So I did email him that recommendation. So he may be reporting that to city manager. I don't know if that's getting up to the city council, but I did convey that to Tom Vonnegut right after the meeting, what the CAC's recommendation was.
Okay, great. Would you kindly let me know when you get a decision on that? If he's taking it to the city manager, I'd like to know what the decision is, and I actually would like to be there if possible.
Well, I don't know what the next step is. It was just a recommendation to consider joining a coalition. I don't know that there might be more as the city council is approached by this maybe grant funding opportunity to form the coalition. So I don't know that that there's going to actually be anything formal on the agenda until there's some more structure provided. But I'll keep you updated. Tom Vonnegut will keep me updated as things move on.
Did
Well, I
Tom
also
have
think
any
Jareen should
reaction?
be involved in that too, because she's the representative from our committee. I totally trust Tom, but we were the ones that are embracing this and encouraging this regional leadership.
Okay.
So what can you do? Do you want to talk to Tom about that, or I can give him a call? I'll give him a call.
I can
find out.
email him. Just keep me posted if an agenda item comes before city council regarding Sand Replenishment Coalition.
Yeah, that's great. But if it comes before council, then they must have had paperwork to go with it. Usually a paper is prepared for them to look at to put it on the agenda.
Right. And it could be, where Chris and Joreen maybe present as well at that time.
Well, yes, and I've already talked to Chris about that, and I will be there too, as support and chair of the committee,
Okay.
in case any other encouragement needs to be given. It never hurts when we start something new to get perspectives from people. So anyway, that's good news. That's all good news. Any other questions?
Oh, actually, I do have one more thing to add.
Oh, good.
We did hear from, I think OC Parks did hear from the San Clemente Lifeguard Association, and they are interested in being a stakeholder and supporting the efforts of a regional coalition.
Okay, would like to. So did they contact Chris directly?
I'm not sure, either Susan at OC Parks or Chris Webb.
Okay. Good.
Based on that comment, then let me ask Tom Vonnegut if, well, I don't know if it might have to be a city council decision. San Clemente Lifeguards, they may meet and say, yes, we're interested, but let me just check in to see if there's going to be a point in time now that that funding, some of that funding has come through to OC Parks, that we express our interest, that the city expresses their interest. So let me check on with Tom on that. I'll send him an email. Okay.
What was it, the actual lifeguards or like a foundation of lifeguards?
It's whatever committee. Do you remember McMains, who was with us?
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking so I bet they're walking a very fine line. I bet it's
Yes,
not
I think they are
not the
too.
official lifeguards, it's the lifeguard foundation or booster.
No, isn't it the Lifeguard Association? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, so
Many
I would
lifeguards.
I would bet they consider themselves a separate entity than like the actual.
They're
No,
not-
it
They're
is. I think
nonprofit.
it's a nonprofit that helps support.
Right.
Not the actual lifeguards themselves, but I think.
Right.
Well, whatever his group is.
Well, that fact alone is good enough to at least see what kind of interest and what they can do for us. What would they do with their membership?
I think they just were expressing support. So like they would be willing to go to a city council meeting and support Orange or City of San Clemente joining the coalition.
Well, they certainly have a vested interest, right? If there's no beach, it's going to make it a little bit
Sure.
harder for them to do their job. Yeah.
Well, sure, but we want people who are embracing the idea with some action as well. And if they're willing to do some PR about that, or maybe some fundraising or just community awareness, things of that, I think are important.
I think they could be good foot soldiers and maybe even raise some funds for the whole initiative. So
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's their desire as well. Good, and that goes.
Their structure, that lifeguard headquarters there, that's they're in jeopardy. So they're definitely interested for sure.
Yes. Well, that's good. Good. Anything else, Jermaine?
Nope.
So who will be your contact in Levin's office, or are you just communicating with them as needed, or is Chris handling that?
I believe Chris is sort of spearheading that, but I mean, Terry was on the call, and then I'm going to forget the name. There was a guy that also was on the call that was part of his staff.
Okay, good.
I'm going to be communicating directly with them now.
Well, I'm really glad that we got a good reception, and they were prepped pretty well ahead of time by a couple different people. So good. I'm glad you had a good experience with that. Keep up the great work. Moving along. Let's go to the bottle refill station update, please, Cynthia.
Okay, so we found I checked in with Randy Little, maintenance manager, on a potential location along the trail near T Street. And I'm going to share my screen because he did select or recommend a particular location. So let me share my screen
Okay.
and let me know if you can see it.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So he had recommended the T Street bathroom. And so this is just a couple images as you're walking south on the trail. We're approaching the T Street bathroom. And then here on the right here, walking south on the trail, arriving at the bathroom.
Oh, wait a minute. I got completely booted out here. Wow. I'm back in Outlook. How did that happen? I didn't touch a thing.
Is it?
Let me go back to, hold on.
Yeah, we can still hear you, Cynthia. Or I'm
Okay.
sorry, Susan. Susan, sorry.
Yeah. Susan, did you minimize
But I
something?
can't see anything.
Did you minimize something? Do you need to go
No,
down?
I didn't touch the screen at all.
Oh.
So let me get back to clicking on Hello Coastal Advisory.
If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's the Zoom icon.
Yeah, it's still on.
Maybe click on that and maybe it'll pop back up. I don't know.
I'm just going to re-enter if I can here.
Then I'm going to have to stop sharing screen so I can.
Oh, wait. Well, then I'll take your suggestion. Let me try. Oh, that worked. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Great
Okay,
idea.
you can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the bottle refill the T Street bathroom. And the top ones, you're walking south on the trail, approaching it on the right. And this bottom one here is coming from the south, heading north. And there's the T Street bathroom on your left. And then here's the wall, the eastern wall of T Street bathroom. And this location has the electrical and water that would be needed.
I think that's a great place.
So Randy Little sent this over to Samantha Wiley with the Beaches Parks and Recreation Director.
Uh-huh.
And she said it'd be a good location, but I guess they are looking to put a mural on this wall. So I just got that information yesterday. So I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. So I'm going to check in with Samantha next week and see what's going on with that.
Could
Well-
they possibly put it on the side, one of the side walls, if the back's going to be a mural?
I think because if you look down here, I think that there's
It's already, yeah, there's a plug.
a good water source right here.
Right.
I
don't think that the water refill station would be so big to really interfere with the mural.
Well, and they suggested the similar one that's on the pier, where it's attached to the wall instead of the freestanding version, which you guys have seen before. So,
And
I mean, it'd be nice if they could incorporate the water fountain into the overall mural, but I don't know, the artist and the negotiations and what it would all look like for that mural itself and how it all come together.
Cynthia, would it be too difficult to put it either on the north end or the south end of the?
Yeah, that's what you guys
Sure.
were asking. Someone just asked that. So
Sorry, maybe I missed that.
let me ask. I'll ask the maintenance manager. I think it's nice to be on this wall, just so
Me
it's
too.
much more visible.
Sure.
You know,
Completely agree with that. But yeah, if it's gonna take away from the aesthetics of the mural.
right? Or even if it was at one end or the other of the wall, still
Yeah.
on this western side or eastern side, but one end or the other. So let me do a little bit more homework and see about that. Okay.
Well, yes, and I think it'd be important to see, though, if it would fit right into the mural. It's not going to be that big. And it would bring more attention to the mural as well. And not be an eyesore. It would be part of that whole picture.
Yeah, we don't want it to disappear in the mural either. You'd still want it to be noticeable, right? So you don't want the artist to hide it in any way, thinking that it's not part of the artwork. So
Well, I think the freestanding are attached to the wall itself is going to be pretty obvious to anybody walking. But yes, please go ahead and follow up with Samantha.
okay.
Good work.
Because then, I thought we were making headway, and then I got the mural comment. But I'm thinking, because I could probably provide pricing, better pricing, how much for installation and how much for the product itself. But now I'm on a little bit of a hold to see. So let me get a little bit more information. At the next meeting, I should be able to come back with maybe a cost estimate for all that and maybe a potential location and a timeline on this mural if when they're planning to have that done. Okay.
Well, have they already approved a contract?
I don't know.
Or is it just an idea?
I don't know.
Okay, well, can we discuss this as a committee? I mean, I think that we should embrace the fact that we can put a refill bottle station, a bottle refill station there. And because it's going to be so visible, I'm sure it's going to get a lot of use. And I think the mural they would both accentuate each other for attention, if you will. I don't know that one would take away from the other. Plus, I think it's less costly to attach, well, I know it is, to the building where the pipes are already set up, et cetera. And even if we do a counter pardon me, we can also move in with the electricity, correct, Cynthia?
Yes, there's an electricity source there.
So we had talked about trying to get, at least an inexpensive bid at a great location. And I think this fits the bill. I'd like your comments on that. I'd like Cynthia to push that the water refill station is important to have right there at that location, even if it was at one end of that front wall or the other, not on the sides, but still visible to the whole trail. I think that would be amenable to our needs as well, or what we're trying to accomplish by even having a bottle refill station. Correct? We want people to see it, to use it, etc.
Well, and I agree with Susan. I think the preference would be to allow for the mural to happen, but then figure out a spot on the eastern side of that wall for the water refill to be. Maybe, to your point, Cynthia, maybe it couldn't quite be in the middle because it looks like maybe that's a water pipe coming out of the side there on the eastern end of the wall. That would have been a nice spot for it, but yeah, somewhere on that eastern wall is probably preferable to the north end or the south end. But I guess as a fallback, maybe the north end or the south end may not be the end of the world. But I think Susan's right. It's going to get less visibility if it's on the north end or the south end.
Yes, that defeats our purpose. We should buy for visibility for this because we're doing it for the community. So I'd like you to take that. Is everybody in agreement with me that we should make a strong voice about having this section? We're not opposing a mural, and we don't want the mural to oppose us, but I'd like us all to weigh in on this.
I mean,
Joe,
the only
give it a-
consideration would be, I mean, you could put, if you were worried about, if they really didn't want the water refill station to interfere with the mural, you could put a freestanding one so that it's easily seen from the trail on, the north or south end. So it sort of sticks out, so it would be visible and not hidden on the wall. But I don't know if that would, increase costs or what, but.
Yeah, they're more expensive than the ones that attach to the wall, but I'll ask maintenance manager about that option.
Yeah, and you can ask, Samantha too, because I mean, obviously an artist, if they haven't been commissioned yet, there's probably not a design yet. And, maybe they could design around it, or, you could put it on one side so that you could still have.
I agree. And even if it was a mural, it would be fun if they actually fit it into their mural. So it became a live function of the mural, a 3D function. Would you suggest that point, please, Cynthia?
Yeah, I'll ask Samantha if the artist has been commissioned and, what stage the development of this mural is in. And I'll also recommend that the bottle refill station be somehow incorporated into the artwork and complementary to the artwork and the bottle refill station. I think it could work really well.
I think so too. It would create some synergy too. I don't want it to be one to get one or the other. I think synergistically we should be able to work together and make that work. Anybody else have a viewpoint to share? Okay, we're moving forward with those recommendations. Cynthia, will you read that back to us, please, so we're all on the same page? Just a couple of those notes that sum up what we've talked about.
Options to place on either end of the building or toward the end, one of the ends of the eastern wall. Ask about freestanding option. Is the artist commissioned, and can the artwork and bottle refill station complement each other?
Yeah, I don't know that we want to put it on the north or south end.
I just want to see if it's even an option. And I know that that's not your preference. But
I would put that last on the list.
okay.
Any other comments from members? No? Terrific. Great. Thank you, Cynthia. Good report.
Welcome.
All right, Cynthia, you're on for grant funding and new business, the Beach Sand Replenishment Project, California Division of Boating and Waterways. This was brought up submitted by Tom Vonnegut to the City Council and passed by consent calendar. So I asked Cynthia to include it on our agenda item to fill us in so that we stay abreast in a timely fashion of what's happening with sand replenishment.
So I really don't have any more information than what was provided in the agenda report. I mean, I can highlight that City Council must approve the attached resolution, which was on the consent calendar and approved. But at the bottom of that first page of the agenda report, if the Army Corps proceeds as planned, the city will need to provide about $1.9 million as the local contribution. And it looked like the timeline would be in 2022, fall of 2022. So I really don't have any more information than what was in the agenda report for your request, Susan.
Who is, who's running the project? Is that Tom, or is the staff, or is he working with both, the Department of Boats and Waterways,
I don't know.
with their staff? It would be interesting to find out. Would you find that out and bring that information back to us, please?
Well, Tom Vonnegut is obviously involved.
Yes.
So what is it you want me to ask?
Well, I'd like to find out who's writing the grant and who's he working with to make this happen.
Well, the city was awarded the $3.54 million state grant in 2017.
I'm talking about the one that he's applying for now. If you could just ask him,
I don't,
what is his application process? Who is he working with? Or
I
is he just submitting it on his own and in representing the city of San Clemente?
he already submitted the grant application. It
Mhm.
states that in the agenda report.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if Tom had staff help him write the agenda or the grant. I'm not, it's already been submitted.
Okay.
And the resolution they had to pass was to allow the grant to be submitted.
Yes.
So I'm not
Okay.
sure what you're,
Well, I wasn't sure it was actually submitted because they had to agree on the resolution. Wasn't that just last week or the week before?
yeah, sometimes the way grants go is the grant is due and the timing just isn't right to get the grant finished and the application ready and the resolution. So sometimes you submit the grant, but you have to have the resolution approved within, a couple of months of the grant application due date. So this is probably what happened. He had already submitted it. So,
Okay.
and they were just approving the resolution.
Okay. Any other questions on this? New business? None? Okay. Let's move on to Dog Beach. Cynthia, again, this is you.
Yeah, and so just a discussion amongst CAC members about the community interest in allowing dog access to a section of San Clemente Beach. Now, Charlie Smith, I know he's on the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission, and they had a meeting on Tuesday, and there's a really good agenda report if you go back and look to the February 9th meeting, that there's been interest that pops up every once in a while since 1989 and about every 5 years thereafter about interest in the dogs on the beach. And it hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gotten approved. I think the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation members they only received 3 comments, 2 against, 1 for. And I think they didn't want to make a decision, which makes sense. They really wanted to get a little bit more public feedback, public comment on the topic. So,
Yes.
Charlie, do you want to add any to that?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
No, I mean, Cynthia's spot on. It just, I think, I think we need to understand what the city wants, what the people want, and then we need to combine that with the fact that there's going to be difficulty around cleanup. There's going to be difficulty around space. There'll be difficulty around control. So it's another difficult one that's been put in front of us, and we just want more public input, and then we'll take that public input and we'll combine that with our impressions of how workable this is. I can tell you I think the consensus was that we're not in favor of dogs being in the water. That'd be number one. And number two, we're not in favor of the dogs being off leash. So I think those two things were pretty much off the table from my read of the conversation. Yeah, it's too early to figure out exactly how people are thinking about this and what the which way the wind is blowing on this particular issue. So.
Well, thank you for your input, Charlie and Cynthia. I know there was a concern about public safety as well for dogs on the beach. So
for sure. Yep, absolutely.
One area, just because I'm a dog owner and I do take my dog to the beach. So I know that the city of Laguna Beach does allow dogs on the beach leashed only during the fall, winter and spring, all hours. And then during the summer months, it's before 9 a.m. and then after 6 p.m. So when their beaches are in high use, they don't allow the dogs during the day. And then also California state parks, they do off leash at Trail 6 at San Onofre. And that's somewhere a lot of people have taken their dogs. And then obviously Huntington, there's Dog Beach, and then down in San Diego, there's another that let the dogs go in the water there. So, I mean, I do think for, dog owners, it's something people enjoy, bringing their dogs to the beach and seeing them play at the beach, because dogs usually love the beach. So it's nice. And I think if you have the proper controls, it can be, it's pretty successful. I mean, at least in my view, I've never seen any problems at Trail 6 or any of those with dogs on the beach. I mean, the dogs are happy, the people are happy. I don't see any waste on the beach. Everyone picks up after their dog.
Well, Trail 6, and thanks for that input. Trail 6 is much more casual than many of the other beaches, just because of its location and privacy and wilderness. But I know the lifeguards were concerned at one time about it's not their duty or responsibility to chase after owners or dogs that may be interfering with other people who are enjoying the beach or interfering with somebody who's trying to swim. And they didn't really want to add that to their list of duties, just like they don't want to police the coastal trail. They only have eyes for people, so to speak. And I think that we should take that as wise input from the lifeguards, because it is concerning how many, and you don't want to be dealing with the dog bite and take your eyes off the water, especially if it's a busy day. I've been down to the beach when there's dogs, and I used to take my dog down there as well. And unfortunately, even on the coastal trail still, people are still allowing their dogs, they don't pick up after them, to just go ahead and defecate on the trails. And the same is true with the beaches. I witnessed it just a couple of weeks ago. So, it's all fun, especially when the weather's like it is. There's not a lot of people on the beach. Let's take our bicycle down and our dogs down and let them run around and play. And I watched that dog take a big bowel movement and then run into the water and the whole 9 yards. And that owner made no effort to wrap that up or put it in a bag. Instead, that destination was going to be out in the water because the tide was coming in. So that's not very appealing to me, and probably to any of you as well. And things happen because animals are animals, and they're out in the free with the free beaches and air and water, etc. And they're excited. They've been running, and that's what happens. But so I just want to bring up the pros and cons, and I'm glad that Charlie's group is going to get some feedback from the public. I hope it's a better survey, a more whole survey. Maybe even manning a table down at the farmers market would be a good way to get people to stop and give input. Charlie, what do you think?
No, I think that's a great idea. We left
That
it up to we left it up to staff on exactly how they wanted to go about gathering the information. There'll probably be another public announcement on the website that we're seeking information. But Doreen, I hear you. I mean, I'm a dog person too. I love my dog, and I'd love to find a way to get it done. It's just, as you can imagine, it's a balancing act. So, Cynthia mentioned it, which I think was a good point. The staff for BPNR did a really great job of putting together a nice report.
Oh, absolutely. It was
Go back
really
and
good.
reference that report because it mentions all the parameters of what the other cities do.
Mhm.
Huntington, Newport, couple of the other coastal cities with respect to dogs on the beach and what the months are that they're allowed on and the times they're allowed on. My sense is if we do get there, which is a big if, in my opinion, that we'll probably adopt something akin to what the other cities are doing. But the one thing you've got to keep in mind is, and it's the topic du jour, right? Is without sand replenishment, I think dogs on the beach is tough, because if you compare our beaches versus some of the beaches in Newport Beach, which have had nice sand replenishment, have big, long, wide beaches that are far away from, a lot of the sand's far away from the water line. I think there's more space there for the dogs to have a little bit of more of a running room or a runway, if you will, vis-a-vis our beaches. I think our beaches are a lot more narrow, especially down by T Street's narrow, parts of the pier are narrow depending on the tide. And certainly when you get up into 204s and North Beach and all that stuff, that's pretty narrow also. So.
Well, we'll see what happens. Would you pass that idea along to Samantha, though, about having a table at the farmer's market? I think that would drive more neutral.
Cynthia, do you want to tell her, or do you want me to tell her?
I can let her know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
I have dogs too, but I think the increased liability outweighs it unless it's an off season. I think to have dogs in our small beaches during the summertime, with the liability, when there's already liability at the beach without dogs, I don't see it. But if there was off season, like say, not during Easter vacation or from Easter vacation until the fall, that might be different, because then the potential of dog bite is a lot lower, but they'd still have to be on on a leash. Otherwise, from being an old council member just with dog bites at parks and still having a requirement to be on the leash, it's one of the biggest liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Dog
Completely
bite.
agree.
That besides the trip and fall.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
my sense is that I don't think it makes sense to do it in any of our really high use areas, because I think around the pier, I think around T Street, I mean, even in the off season, people are surfing. I mean, those are pretty high use areas, I would think. But there might be some areas that you could designate a small section of San Clemente leash only during off season that I think could be nice. But I don't know. I mean, most people know, I mean, there is trails, and that is, most San Clemente residents can use that, and it's great. And it's a wonderful place to take your dog, and it's not far. So, I'm not really pushing that we need to have it in San Clemente, but
Well, to your point, Doreen, we do have, you can take your dog on leash in certain time periods to Capo Beach. You obviously have Sano down there at Dog Patch. There are some areas that you can take the dogs. I'm not sure what the deal is with what am I blanking? Like Calafia in that area down there. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But
That would not be a good idea.
I put the
yeah,
down
yeah.
there.
Well, no, there's a lot of exits and entrances from that site, and a lot of people come from the inn and the campgrounds at all times, and go down to the beach that way as well.
And I've never
A
seen
lot
any
of
dogs
things.
down. I've never seen any dogs down at Rivy either.
Oh, I live in that area, and there's a lot of dogs. I can tell you
On the beach.
probably on a daily basis, 80 dog walkers cross my house to go down to the beach. No,
Oh, wow.
no question about it. And
Well, maybe that's the difference between a state beach and San Clemente Beach.
yeah, well, they're going down there because they live in this neighborhood or close by. They funnel down. They pick the place they're going to funnel down. But I know state parks will give out tickets, I believe, if you do a dog violation. First, they give you a warning, I think, unless the rules have changed, and then you might get a citation. I don't know the cost of the citation or warning or anything about that. But as Doreen was saying, Twirl 6 seems to be a favorite. But Charlie, didn't Poche come up as a possible beach during your meeting? I thought I heard somebody say something about Poche.
They might have mentioned it, but we didn't really, unless I missed something, we didn't really bat around any ideas about potential locations. What we did talk about, which has kind of been part and parcel to a lot of conversations we've had as of late, is we're going to take up the site-specific master plan for a couple parks like Sanji and trying to think of the other parks. Like I think it's Marblehead. I think we're looking at a couple other parks. I think it's like 6 parks in total.
Mhm.
One of the things that kind of constantly comes up with Sanji is that there would be a dog run. Basically taking the Barron Park and moving it, not moving it, but having a similar off-leash concept to Barron at Sanji. Some people refer to it as a dog run, and I think there's a lot of merit to that because we've got a lot of space at Sanji to do a lot of different stuff. Add more pickleball, add maybe some skate park amenities, whatnot. But I think a dog run there would probably be something that we definitely would be looking at pretty closely. So that was the only thing that I remember that was site specific. Like let's talk about areas in which you could have the dogs kind of have a little bit more free reign. I didn't hear Poche talk about it as far as like a site specific area that could entertain on leash or off leash, whatever the case may be.
So sorry, Susan. So I've been trying to get a word on the dog issue. So pet owner, dog owner, I'm glad you're looking at the other areas. My concern is that if we open something up here, it draws people from other cities to focus on that issue, right? And like as mentioned, like trails, right? Dogs are allowed on Trail 1 and Trail 6. They are supposed to be on leash, but nobody does, right? And I almost exclusively recreated trails. I have for 12 years, and the explosion in the number of individuals bringing their dogs there who otherwise wouldn't be there but for the dogs, right? It used to be a couple surfers hanging out and they would bring dogs.
Yeah.
Now the secret's out, everybody knows you can bring dogs down there. It's an explosion. It's crazy how many people go and bring dogs down there. So that would be my one word of caution is like, I think it's an awesome amenity for the city of San Clemente, but if we're the only ones in the area doing it, I fear we're going to get a high concentration of dogs in that one spot.
Right, and Joe, you're saying off leash, right?
The rule is going to be on leash, but people inevitably are going to take their dogs off leash. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, so, but inevitably, I don't think we have anywhere in the city limits that you could do off leash. That's my personal opinion, but.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's like, I know in Laguna Beach, I mean, all the dogs that I see there are on leash. Like they enforce that pretty well. So people walk their dog on leash there. And I think there's just certain areas like only Huntington and then trails are sort of known as your off leash areas. And then nowhere else in Orange County, I don't think, people.
But that statement in itself, Doreen, says a lot. Nowhere else in Orange County, and cities have decided not to have dogs at the beach for various reasons, whether they're public safety or
off leash at the beach. Not most of the cities do. Like if Huntington has it, Laguna Beach has it, Dana Point doesn't, I believe, but most Newport does allow dogs on the beach. So most of them actually do.
Well, I don't know. That's 3 beaches. There's a lot more beaches than those 3. But I'm not trying to to be negative about it. I'm open to see what happens and what other people have to say and what the community has to say. But I think that the point that you made too, Doreen, of it should not be at a populated beach where people take their kids. It's known as family beaches like Riviera and frankly like Calafia. Calafia is huge. I mean, they have, well, in good times, over 1 million visitors a year to that state park. So think about that. That's a huge influx of people. And a lot of those people bring their dogs if they're camping, just because, as Joe's saying, they know all about it. They check out whatever amenities are available when they make those reservations. And the
Right,
same.
and I know you know this, Susan, but it would just be San Clemente beaches that we would be opining on, right? So.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
thought,
no, our input wouldn't impact Riviera or Calafia or any of the state beaches.
Mhm.
I do think that connection to the beaches are short. We need more sand. That opens up additional space for potential this use. I think it's a good connection to make.
Amen. Amen.
Solid.
Amen.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. That's. I'm glad you brought up that point, Charlie and Joe, that you reiterated that. Okay, Cynthia. So who's taking this forward? You brought this up for our Cynthia. You brought this up for our discussion. Who are you reporting this to? BPNR.
I can, I mean,
Well, you might as well share.
sounds like everyone's hesitant about it. I know BPR, I'll connect with Samantha and see about the survey, if they're going to move forward, because I actually would like to be involved in the development of that survey. I think that I could probably provide some good input. And I also wanted to just bring up something else that was brought up about enforcement, because you're going to have enforcement. And Del Mar, they sent me a bulleted list about the enforcement and how much impact, because it is the lifeguards in Del Mar that are enforcing the dog beach there.
Mhm.
And they have impacts to workload with face-to-face contacts, addressing complaints, paperwork, documentation, filing. They can issue citations, and with certain citations, there's additional reporting, and in some cases, court appearances. The busiest time of the year at the beach is during the off season, the day after Labor Day until June 15th, and then there's higher use results in increased trash. Maintenance and trash pickup tends to be more frequent during this time. They do provide mutt mitts or a pet waste bag dispenser, but there's costs associated with keeping that maintained and stocked. So there's a lot of impacts to it, having a dog beach, especially if you're going to bring in enforcement. And I know the lifeguards really don't want to, like you said, I think Chair Ambrose earlier, that their focus should be on saving people and looking out at the ocean. And, I don't know that they would be supportive of adding that, or do we have to hire somebody else to enforce, the dog beach? So it's something definitely to consider. And then in Del Mar, they're actually considering hiring a beach and community safety patrol officer to assist with dog-related issues at the beach. So it sounds like they are, it's something ongoing. And I do want to comment on what Joe said, because when I worked for the city of Oceanside, there was also community interest in having a dog beach there. And of course, at that time, we had the bacteria TMDL. We didn't want to introduce another source of bacteria to a particular beach, which, our beaches are doing pretty well, except for 3 segments. But we want to be able to not introduce another source at this point in time until we get that kind of dialed in. But I do want to bring up that because Oceanside has a lot of Marines, they live nearby, they live in the city, they would tend to be the ones that they didn't know the regulations, and they would bring their dog to the beach and they would let it run around. I mean, Oceanside doesn't allow dogs on its beach. And I agree with Joe that if you say that there's a dog beach in San Clemente, it's just going to draw a lot of people from throughout the region. Laguna Beach is hard to get to, to drive over to Laguna Beach. But San Clemente, boom, it's right off the freeway. You're going to have a lot of people coming from not only Camp Pendleton, but other cities to come to that dog beach. So just things to be aware of.
And they don't have to feel accountable because they're going back to where they came from. So they're not frequenting the beach as people as much as people with dogs. They're not the person who goes down to the beach to go swimming perhaps, or to lay on the beach or read a book or talk with your friends on the beach or whatever you're having a picnic with your family or whatever. They're there to play with their dogs and get some recreation and exercise. So it's
And
a
there's
whole
always-
different community there.
And
I mean, there's always people who are going to pick up after the dog, but there's always going to be people who don't pick up after the dog. And we know that there's dog piles on the beach trail already.
Yes.
Pick it up.
I guess, I mean, that's kind of maybe the last point maybe to make is that in San Clemente, I'm just sort of thinking like, if we were to do it, where would you do it? And you're right, our beaches are very narrow, and then there already is an allowed use of dogs on, and a heavy use of dogs on the beach trail. And that essentially is like walking your dog on the beach with a leash. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing, minus there's not really the sand there. But so I think from an amenity perspective, it's kind of the same thing, that we already have a really good walking amenity for dog users right along most of our beaches with the beach trail.
Yes. That's a good point too. Cynthia, will you note that as well? Would you note Doreen's comments, please, when you talk to Samantha?
Okay, sure. Sorry, I wasn't taking notes, but I can let her know.
No, I thought you just read us a list of all the things you wrote down. Or did you just do those at the top of your head in your memory?
No, I read a list from the city of Del Mar, the
Okay.
enforcement from the city of Del Mar.
I see.
I'll talk to Samantha Wiley. I think, there's these concerns. You're all bringing up a good list of concerns. So,
Well, I think too, it's important to have that. I keep coming back to the farmer's market because you get a whole slew of people from young to old to everybody goes to the farmer's market. And if they have a dog, or if they don't have a dog, they would be more inclined to voluntarily go and comment rather than getting a phone call on a survey. I just think if you're going to do a survey, then there should be another option for people to give an opinion that weren't included in the survey.
yeah, I think the BPR commission members mentioned implementing the survey on the trail and only asking for residents' input, along the trail. The first question would be the resident. But I can bring it up to Samantha about maybe if they do plan on moving forward with implementing that survey, about doing it at the farmer's market.
Thank you. Well, even if they don't do a survey, they could still have cards for people to fill out, opinion polls or etc. I
Okay.
did a whole development in San Clemente with just cards. They came in and looked at a development, and people filled out cards about what they thought about it, the pros and the cons. And after getting about 1,500 cards voluntarily submitted, there were only maybe 22 that had concerns about, a blank wall or something of that nature, or even a pet left in a car. Or when people have volunteer to come to a table and write something down, they're really thinking about that issue.
So nobody was staffing the table? I'm not sure.
I was. I
Oh,
was answering
somebody was
questions.
staffing the table or volunteering to staff the table.
Well,
Okay.
of course, you'd have to, just as at the farmer's market, yes, you'd have to have somebody staffing the table, but it's not as imposing because they're coming as volunteers as getting a phone call for a survey or answering a survey. It's a different environment,
Okay.
different attitude. So, and I would support both,
Okay.
but not just the survey. Anyway,
I think you need to be cautious on a survey.
I
Because
just,
your survey can get skewed. So you need to have a pretty good survey that's going to get a cross section, because people will tend to not make negative comments just because it's impolite. So it needs to be a survey in a situation where somebody feels free to give their true opinion.
mhm.
Yeah, and it's also the way you write the questions is really important. And there's experts that know how to phrase the questions to get a more accurate answer. Because many people know how they may know the correct answer or the politically correct answer. Do you pick up after your dog? Oh yeah, and then you watch them later on and they don't. So they know what the right answer is. So and it depends on what you're trying to get out of the survey, what answers you're trying to get. So, yeah.
Right. Be careful what you're asking for, because it comes out so positive, then what are you going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think it's a negative from a policy standpoint for the city. I mean, you already have dog park, you can walk along the trail. It does take, I agree, it takes the lifeguard's eye off the ocean, unless you're going to have the sheriff do it. I would be against, if I was a council member, I'd vote against it.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't bring up the liability.
Mm-hmm.
And dogs don't get along with little kids. Too much excitement causes a dog bite.
All right, good input. So Cynthia, you've accepted the responsibility of connecting with Samantha?
Yep.
All right, or
She and I have been sharing information already. So
the other side is maybe Charlie would be interested in doing that, since he sits on the Beaches, Parks and Recreation Committee. He has easy access. I'll let you two work that out, but it seems reasonable to me since he's on both of our committees, if you're too busy. Why don't you two work that out?
Cynthia, go ahead and run with talking to Samantha. I think that's the great way to do it.
Okay, great. All righty, we ready to move on? All righty, next, Cynthia, it's you again. On a communications bacteria monitoring report and environmental programs updates.
all right. So we have the January bacteria report, and we had no exceedances. Now, when there is a rain event, though, the county just pretty much puts out a general advisory that all beaches, you're advised not to go in the water until 72 hours after the rain has ended. They don't necessarily post that, there's no signs out there. But you can see that there was no exceedances in January.
Isn't that wonderful?
It was only sampled 3 times, but in the wintertime, off season, they're only required to sample once per week or once a month. But at some key locations, they sample more often if they can, like Pier and Poche.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to highlight some of the environmental programs?
Yeah, so one of the things on January 28th and 29th, staff, we held some consultant interviews. So there are some regulations coming down from CalRecycle, which is the agency that administers legislative bills related to solid waste and recycling. And we are in need of assistance to hire a consultant to help get businesses compliant with recycling and organics diversion. There are some businesses that still don't have just general recycling set up for bottles, cans, or paper, even if it was an office or a restaurant. So, and as well as with restaurants, they are going to have to start separating their food waste from recyclables as well as trash. So CRR, our franchise trash hauler, they have been hitting the road, going out to businesses. It's been a little challenging with the pandemic, right? So, because you can't necessarily just walk into a business. And then our other challenges with restaurants, because, wow, they're just trying to survive right now. And now we're going to come in and tell them, well, you really need to be separating, into the 3 waste streams. So we interviewed consultants. We released a request for proposal. And then we interviewed consultants, and we're working on making a recommendation, going before City Council on March 2nd to request approval to hire a particular consultant. And they would go boots on the ground, go into businesses, calling some virtual work first, going on boots on the ground, trying to get them set up, and over a 2-year period, as well as doing some social media and marketing for residential recycling. So, or residential organics, because if you live in a single family home, you probably know here in San Clemente, you can put your food waste into the green waste cart. And we want to try and educate the residents about that and increase participation in that.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
But otherwise, I think things like you can see down in the recycling and solid waste, the complaints and calls received. It seems like since the pandemic, complaints and there's been a lot more complaints. Partly, I think, because people are home and they're looking out their window, and otherwise they wouldn't see things, or someone left their trash cart out too long, or they put it out too early, and there just seems like a lot more increase in complaints during the pandemic. So that's been a lot of workload on Dana, our solid waste coordinator. So
Plus, there's probably more trash accumulating because people are staying home.
yeah, in fact, in the lockdown orders in March of last year, trash carts were overflowing, trash and recycling. It was a challenging couple of months because there were some people staying at home, and especially in multifamily complexes and apartment complexes, there was a lot of problems with that. So,
Yes. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Let's move on to reports. 9A. These are my categories I wanted to talk to you about. All of you received a handout or a link and a handout on the climate video challenge that the Coastal Commission is recommending. And the deadline is March 31st. It's a great, yours is probably in color, but it looks like this. And it talks about children making a 3-minute video to submit for a contest the California Coastal Commission is sponsoring that would teach them about climate justice and climate change. And they could do narrations, they can add music. There's certain conditions that they have to comply with in terms of, not having the rights to use the music, etc. But it's really because of sea level rise and what's happening with our beaches, there's a lot more awareness. And the Coastal Commission really wants to start kids out. Now, this is for middle school and high schoolers, thinking about what they can do to help solve the problem. And there's one way of doing that is going out yourself and picking a cause, or walking down the beaches, or seeing what's happened to the tide pools, or what do you see running down the gutters, all kinds of things that they could do to exercise and increase their knowledge on waste and how it makes clean oceans and clean waters more difficult to maintain and sustain. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And you can go online and look at the wonderful projects that have been turned in the past and videos that were taken in the past. Also see some beautiful artwork. I really encourage you to do so. So if you've got people who are teachers, or you've got neighbors or friends of yours or clubs that you're in that have middle school or teenagers in their families or in their neighborhoods, please let them know about this wonderful contest. And there's if you have any questions, there's a whole list of directions that the kids can follow in terms of submitting their films and all of that stuff. So I urge you to take a look at it and see what you think. And if you think it's valuable, please pass the word. All right, next is the Capistrano Beach Master Plan update. I talked to you about this before. I don't have a handout for you today because I wanted more to give you the facts of what I know thus far, and they're slim. The County of Orange Parks, OC Parks, has submitted their required 2 months progress report on what they're going to do, what they're planning to do, what they can effectively do for maintaining the sand because of and maintaining some coastal resiliency. And they had to propose certain things that they were going to do to do that and not only not Doheny, but all the way down that Capistrano Beach run that's been totally decimated by the ocean and storms, etc. So, I haven't seen their draft. It was submitted to the Coastal Commission for review about 3 weeks ago, and probably next month they will get an answer. If they're approved for 2 months, then they can have a run for 6 months. And if they're approved at 6 months, that could be increased to 1 year. So that is how the Coastal Commission is handling now the OC Parks issue, because they had so much degradation in the land and in the beaches and in the infrastructure that I don't know. Could it have been stopped? I don't know. But I do know that there's a squabble in the public and in interested parties. And I know Surfrider, for example, is preferring the living reefs and the living beaches idea of just letting nature take its course, or plant vegetation that would help nature take its course. They do not support any armoring of beaches whatsoever. And it has been proven that the beach sand cubes that they're putting in at the beach are dissolving under this harsh weather. And part of the plastic that held it together is disintegrating into little particles in the sand, which is what we don't want, because our wildlife eats those, and our birds eats elements of, like if kelp washes up, they will be eating part of that sand, etc. So they will also be digesting plastic. So keeping that in mind, I will keep you posted on that if I hear, or when I hear back from OC Parks, as to see what the decision was made on their 2-year plan. I'm sure that the Coastal Commission will give them more recommendations at that time. So moving along to electric bicycles on coastal and inland trails and parks. I tuned into that city council meeting, and actually Charlie can probably answer this question or help me brief you on this. There was a good discussion on this, and Samantha Wiley again made an excellent presentation. She introduced all the history and what the current information was, and who said what, where, when, and all the public input, and the recommendations that beaches, parks, and recreation made. Charlie, you want to step in and announce those again? The recommendations that the BPNR Commission made to the City Council.
Well, we talked about further limitations, or further limitations is not probably the right word, but further clarity on areas in which we thought it was appropriate to walk your bike. We talked about the idea of reducing the speed limit further. I think it was at 10 miles an hour. I think we brought it down to, if I'm not mistaken, 7 miles an hour or 6 miles an hour. I don't remember the exact number.
It was 5, Charlie.
It was 5, okay. We talked about adding signs that would reference yielding to pedestrians. And I think we floated the idea also about further education to the city regarding appropriate utilization of the bikes on the beach trail. We segmented beach trail from parks and from inland trails as well. So just to make that kind of establish further clarity around that. So yeah, that was our proposal.
Thank you. And so the result was the City Council approved including electric bikes by definition as a bike in a resolution in the city code, and also approved walking electric bikes over the bridges, and there would be signs posted. You are not allowed to ride your bikes over those 3 big bridges that are normally used. And also education. And to quote Mayor Ward, we are having an education blitz for a year. So that was music to my ears, because I passed on my comments on increased education for electric bike use on the beach and on the coastal trail, and just in the city and in general. But I really focused on the beach trail and the pros and cons of that. And I was happy to hear some of my comments approved as well. So, for example, I suggested that there be a a hotline, like a button. So the sheriff, Charlie, you know this, the sheriff and the fire department indicated that they had no calls of incidents happening on the beach trail with an electric bike. And the fire department, I understand, said the same thing in the public safety committee meeting that I watched as well. And so this would be a way so people could, they could anonymously, call the hotline and report an incident, whether it was with them or something they observed. It gives them a sense of security and safety, and also reporting something, a malfeasance of respect for others. But it also allows the city to have a database, to build a database, so we have proof of what is and isn't happening down there. Records ourselves. So the police won't say, well, we don't know if anything's down there, therefore why should we send the sheriff down there? Nobody's indicated a need for that. So, and they also, yes, approved the signs informing people that they should treat each other with respect, and that they had to ride their bicycles, walk those bicycles rather on the bridges. Those signs were there before. In some places they've been completely removed. I'm not sure why, and they didn't know why, but those are going to be reinstated. And then the 10-mile speed limit reduced to 5. They did not take action, or they did take action not to reduce it to 5, because they clearly, Mayor Ward announced, and her colleagues concurred with her, that nobody can enforce the speed limit anyway. We can teach the proper speeds. We can teach how to be a better bike driver and rider, etc., and also involve other organizations as much as possible to help in this campaign for education. So in essence, that was put into Samantha's hands to help develop that. And she, of course, she's got various resources she can connect with also. So that was I was very pleased with that meeting. And I loved when it was a 1-year blitz. So they're going to probably they suggested a around town segment on proper use and etiquette of using electric bikes. And they also talked about workshops and any kind of communications they could do on the city website with education. And they also talked about going into schools. And Samantha Wiley mentioned Doreen's project over at Bissell Del Mar that Doreen mentioned briefly to us, and Charlie was working on that with Doreen as well. Doreen, do you want to fill us in? Do you mind filling us in on what's happening with Bissell Del Mar and where you are so far?
Yeah, I mean, well, we haven't had too much movement. I mean, other than we did meet, Charlie, myself, and Samantha, and you joined a little bit later in the call, and we had a really nice phone call with her talking about e-bike education and the need, and a big need to bring it into the schools. And that was just emphasized. So last week we had a very near miss of an e-bike and a school bus. Oh. And the school bus driver called the school and expressed her concern, and they actually ended up doing an inventory of the school, the e-bikes, and saw that there was a number of class 3 e-bikes that obviously kids are not old enough to be using. So the school ticketed all of the e-bikes and told the kids that they banned them from school premises. So, wow. So yeah, so class 3 e-bikes are now banned from our school, which has caused kind of a community uproar because most of the kids have class 3s. So some of them are scrambling, trying to figure out, if they could get governors or things that kind of reduce the speeds on them, and if the school will allow that. But it's coming to a head. There's dangerous things happening every day with e-bikes and safety, and we're really, really hoping that the city can work with us and bring a school safety presentation into the classrooms, because education's really, really needed. So.
Well done. And I think if we all support that, and I think we should, as a Coastal Advisory Committee, support stronger education for e-bikes on the coastal trail. Can we discuss that a bit? Do we want to make a recommendation, or do even a concurrence? Can we draft a letter concurring with the City Council's decision to have an education blitz on e-bikes, especially on the coastal trail? I'm making a motion that we consider doing that, just as a congratulations, or we support your decision to have an education blitz for electric bikes in the city of San Clemente, and because we're coastal commission, particularly for coastal trail and beach use. Is there anybody who would be wanting to second that, or do you not want to get involved in supporting the city council's decision?
I guess my only question is, Susan, what do we, just help me out. What do we accomplish by doing that? We're just, another stakeholder mentioning that we're supportive. Is that what we're
Yes.
going for?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that. That's fine. Who will draft it?
I can draft it,
Okay.
or you can draft it, or Doreen can draft it, either one. It's just going to be short, simple, that we concur with the decision and we appreciate the attention to this matter, some of those things. We could include some data if you want to. If any of you want to supply some ideas to me, I'd be happy to include them in whatever I write, and I can send them out to whoever sends me information. I'll send you out my rough draft before I send it in.
Okay.
But let's go ahead, Cynthia.
So did city council already approve the education blitz for the year?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, would it just suffice to have in the meeting minutes that the Coastal Advisory Committee supports the education blitz that city council approved?
I think it would be nice in the minutes, because it will be in the minutes, but I think we should take a strong stance on this. After all, we're the Coastal Advisory Committee and we're talking about e-bikes on beaches and the beach and the coastal trail. I think it just would be a nice positive response to the city council's action and listening to the kinds of comments that were made to them, and including the ones from beaches, parks, and recreations. We can even say we concur with beaches, parks, and recreations recommendations as well. It's about synergy and getting a positive wave movement going. If the city council is going to take this action, the committee that they have advising them on coastal issues should support that, unless we don't. Well, there's a motion and there's a second. I'm going to call for a vote if people do not have any other questions. Okay, all in favor to have a letter of congratulations. We appreciate what you've done, City Council. And I've already talked about what it would be. Aye, raise your hand if you're in favor. That's 4. Joe?
I'm sorry. I just, the issue really hasn't come in front of our committee. So I'm not opposed to like a symbolic gesture of thanking the city council for the good work they've done. I don't personally want to weigh in one way or the other. I haven't heard enough information on it to make an informed decision on the topic.
All right, then it passes 4 to, what we would call the 1, an abstention. Cynthia, that's 4 to 1 vote?
Well, yeah, I think it's a 4 yeas and 1 nay.
Yes, that's what I said.
Oh, you said abstention. So
Well, I don't know. Are you saying no, or are you abstaining from voting?
No, I'm saying no. I'm a no.
Okay, all right. All right, so that passes 4 to 1. Thank you very much. And then going on to city staff. Cynthia, do you want to give us an update on the Clean Ocean Fee renewal?
yeah, the Clean Ocean Fee renewal, our next step is to meet with the city attorney to make sure our approach is okay to move forward with the fee analysis. There's 2 different approaches you could go with. The way we've been approaching it for the last, since the inception of the Clean Ocean Fee since 2003, or if we want to do a full GIS analysis of all the parcels, which would take more money and quite a bit more time. So next step is just to get city attorney comment, feedback before we move forward with the final fee analysis. We should have a fee amount by in about a month to 6 weeks after that discussion moves forward. Okay.
End of March. Well, what's the timeline? how are you looking at this for getting out to educate the public and make them aware then, if you're looking at March, the end of March?
Yeah, so then at the end of, once we get the fee amount, then we go before city council. There'll probably be some options. Which fee amount would you like to recommend presenting to the property owners? And then once we get their feedback, then we can get the outreach materials developed, finalized. And then, so that could be probably May when we'd start doing the public education outreach. And our thought, if we stick with that timeline, that maybe ballots would go out in late summer and be due in the fall. And we might have public hearings in October, and then maybe the fee starting in November or December. So it's a rough timeline.
Wow, I'm surprised that you're scheduling that, so you'd be having people pay the fee starting in the holidays. Okay, well, so city council by the end of March, correct?
Yeah, probably April is when we'd go before city council with the fee options, fee amounts.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Cynthia on this? I don't see any hands. Next topic, pure bacteria source characterization study update.
So for that, we are about ready to start the confirmatory sampling, which means we've done some investigative sampling. We've been trying to get the restaurant, Fisherman's Restaurant, and CRNR to prevent discharges from servicing of the trash and recycling bins. We've been observing this for several months now, where we see liquid that pours out of the dumpsters when they get dumped into the trash truck. And we really want to try and reduce the amount of liquid waste that's getting into the trash bags from the fishermen's. And we have CRNR that's been looking at their vehicles and making repairs to make sure that they don't have spills or leaks coming out of their vehicles, which I think we've got that in check. So right now, the confirmatory sampling is going to be covered by the County of Orange. And we have submitted a work plan to the County of Orange so that they can then pay the consultant, Wood Environment and Infrastructure, directly for the cost of the confirmatory sampling, which will be about $45,000. So we anticipate that that sampling will begin in early to mid-March. And what the confirmatory sampling does is confirm that we don't have any other human sources, HF 183, that's going through the storm drain system. So,
Okay.
yep.
You were going to send a letter out to the committee.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. I think within the next couple of weeks, we're going to do that. Now that we know the confirmatory sampling kind of dates and a schedule coming up. So that should be going out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, well, I was asking not only for myself and our committee, but I know that I tuned into the BPNR meeting on occasion, and especially when they were talking about the electric bikes and some other issues. I know that when John Dory, the member John Dory of that committee, is asked a question, what's going on with the Pure Bowl study, he said, I don't know, I'm not getting any emails, or they must be passing me by, or they're getting lost in my machine or something. And he kind of chuckled about it, but I know that people are concerned that they don't know what's going on. So hopefully you can get a letter out just to explain. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but just to advise them, because it sounds like you're working on this. So
yeah, we already have it drafted. We have the memo drafted. We just want to put in a little bit better time schedule. And now that we have that information that we got this week, or actually yesterday, we should be able to move forward with getting it out pretty quick.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Cynthia on the Pure Bowl? No? Okay. Alrighty, how about, wait a minute, here we go. Items from staff, potential future agenda items. I have one. I've been talking to the project manager for the railroad infrastructure study, and he has agreed to make a presentation before our group. And I threw out March and April as potential months that he could consider because the study has been completed. And this would be great for us to know what's happening, where they're going to go with this, etc. So in fact, I just spoke to him again today. I'm excited about this. I haven't heard on what day or what month he's going to choose because he's got a lot of things going on with this, of course, since this has just recently happened. So I need approval from all of you to include him either in the March or April agenda. Since I don't know which, I'd like your approval to add him to March or April, whatever he chooses. Cynthia, did I say that well enough to get a vote on including him in the agenda?
Sure.
Okay. So does everybody agree that I can add this person who's the project manager for the railroad infrastructure study to our agenda for March or April? Yes? Give me a hand, please. Okay, 5-0. Unanimous 5-0 vote. Thank you very much.
And
then,
Susan,
I'm
would
sorry.
you like to send me the contact information? His name and email, and then I can, excuse me, I can communicate with him too.
Well, I think he does not want to do that at this time. I'll let you know as soon as he commits.
Okay, that sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay.
And then the next thing I wanted to mention to you, oh no, this is not an agenda item. I'll wait till the other comments. Any other suggestions for agenda items? If we look at that last page from previous, Cynthia, you were going to follow up with Coast Keeper.
Yes, for item 3 under future meetings, the Habitat Restoration Project presentation, I contacted Coast Keeper and they don't have a habitat restoration project in our region. They have one in Newport Beach and another city up that way, but so I'm not sure. This has been on this memo for well over a year, and I want to say it had to deal with Coast Keeper, so I'm not sure.
I thought wasn't it state parks down at Trestles? I thought it was state parks in partnership with Coast, because Coast Keeper brought it up saying that.
Right.
Yes, they did. They said they were doing those programs. I followed up with her because I saw her on a Calafia cleanup, and she said they stopped doing those for a long time ago. And I said, did you share that information with Cynthia? And she said she would check again at the office. But Cynthia, did you ever hear back from her?
Are you talking about Sarah Spinuzzi?
Yes.
And if they're still doing beach cleanups at Calafia?
No, if they're still doing the outside education that Jareen was asking about, that was in one of their information packets. I was told by Sarah they were no longer doing that.
I wasn't mentioning education project. I was mentioning I think it was Sarah. So she had mentioned that State Parks was doing a habitat restoration project down in the Trestles area. And I was interested in hearing more about that.
Oh, okay.
Let me check with State Parks then.
Yes.
Because Coast Keeper doesn't seem to have the information about that site. So let me send an email to the State Parks contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
The Rangers would know that too. Yes, great. Okay. Thank you. And what about the Ocean Protection Council strategic plan? Why is this back on here? I had contacted them and they didn't want to do a speaker at the time for such a small group with COVID. You know, we might be able to get something. They're so busy right now with that new plan that they did, trying to comply, and they're working with so many other, they're interweaving with so many other departments to honor the governor's work order, you know, the new order that he made for 30% reduction. by 2030 of pollutants. So I don't know. Julian, when you had somebody, did you say you were talking to somebody from OPC, or was that a grant?
Yeah.
Who mentioned that grant? Was that you, Cynthia?
No.
Who was talking about Ocean Protection Council during this meeting today?
The grant, that was Orange County Parks had gotten a grant through the Ocean Protection Council.
Okay, well, I was just going to ask you if you saw anything in your meeting or heard anything in your meeting or from the person who might be representing Ocean Protection, if they were going out and doing other seminars or workshops or anything. I'm standing by what I've last heard, which was 2 months ago, that they're holding off on that.
Yeah, and there wasn't anyone from the Ocean Protection Council in the meeting, so.
Okay, in the meeting. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for me, we're on hold on that. Are there any other future items? I had some things that I wrote down here. Hold on a minute. Let me see where I put them. Well, I think most of these will fall under just comments from myself and each of you. Let me go back to that page. So, and it could potentially turn into a agenda item, but let's see what happens. Let's go to the next item on our agenda, which is items from committee members. Can we go around? Charlie, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I do not.
Okay, Jimmy, do you have anything in addition that you'd like to share?
No, I think I shared it. I did want to get an update on our movie, our drive-in movie.
Yeah.
So I have emailed a representative at Beaches Parks and Rec, and I haven't heard back from her. She gave me a budget and she would be willing to contact to get the movie license. So I'm in coordination with that communication. I'm trying to hear back. So I should be able to have more information at our March meeting. And if I have anything before that, if I get a date set with a particular movie, I will make sure to get that information out to all of you even before the next meeting. So I should get a little bit more details definitely before the next meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Would you put that on the agenda then, please? As a follow-up?
Yes, it is. It's on there
Okay,
for March.
I'm sorry. I was looking at something else. Thank you very
That's okay.
much. All right. Gary, do you have anything to add?
No,
Joe?
No, I just want to take a minute to appreciate and thank the work that you and Joreen are doing outside of these monthly meetings. It's a lot of good work going on there. So thank you guys for putting the time to do that and make those connections. So thank you guys. That's all.
You're welcome. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have something that I think you guys would be very interested in. Remember I told you a couple of years ago that I attended the Coastal Resiliency Workshop? And they actually sent me videos that I sent to all of you that you could watch them anytime you wanted. They brought in a big, just across the spectrum day of speakers that talked about how they're dealing with coastal resiliency and the problems they're causing, et cetera, from inland issues to increased flooding, to coastal issues, to all kinds of ways and solutions to try to fight coastal and work with coastal resiliency. And it was such an excellent conference. They've done these yearly, but I thought they canceled their last year's and the year before that's because of COVID, especially last year. But at any rate, I just got a notice today that UCI is sponsoring it again, and it's called the Coastal Resilience Workshop, the 6th annual. It's 2 free days of virtual learning. Let me just read this to you. An event to learn about coastal resilience needs, priorities, and strategies being employed across California and the nation from some of the leading policymakers, scientists, and local government leaders working on the forefront of these issues. To register for this free conference and for an agenda, you can register right here. So I'm going to forward this to Cynthia, and you can actually see the agenda and who the speakers are and all the above. And it's really fun and exciting. And they're introducing climate, not only climate change, but climate justice as well, and economic justice. They're talking about that in terms of environmental justice. So there should be very interesting things about how to maintain resiliency, how cities can work together, and even regionally in some of these issues. So it's right up where we're talking about right now with the resiliency that's going on, and not only at the county level with Doheny, all of those things, and what I'm learning from the Coastal Commission, and the things that Doreen is working on with Pure Bacteria with Cynthia, and the things that Charlie's working on with BPNR. All of these things are coming together, just like Chris Webb is saying. It's so important that we do this regional committee and get the right people in there to have some synergy to make it work. And I think that the more you know, and I know about programs like this, I'm going to hold up my phone, but I'll send it to Cynthia so she can forward this to you. So if you're interested in learning, and if you've got kids, this would be a great time for your kids to learn about, or your spouses, mates, friends, etc., to learn about things that are happening. And I do believe at the end of this, we might get an opportunity to, even download the information. But at any rate, the event is March 2nd and 3rd. I'll send this to Cynthia. Cynthia's tomorrow back on Black Friday?
No.
Okay, I'll send this to you tomorrow so you can forward on to the Coastal Advisory Committee members. And if any of you want to continue to forward that on to your colleagues or neighbors or anybody else you think might be interested, please feel free to do so. We want to wake up people's minds, especially in this era of increased awareness caused by losing sand, caused by the decimated, Capo Beach, and not to even mention all the infrastructure along the coastline that's going on. So, and I also wanted to mention, there was a great article in the paper on February 5th, and the headline was California legislators are rushing to make policy bills in environmental issues. And then it had, due to coastal resiliency or loss of sand, kind of thing. But they showed a picture there, and I'm going to forward this article to you. How many of you have seen that article already? Nobody? Oh, Doreen, you saw it?
I think I saw it, yeah.
There was a photograph of 5 houses on a beach. And so if you're looking at it, on the far right is a beach house, a 2-story, that has sand in front of it. And it's marginal sand. And they still have a beach, but it's very marginal. The 2 houses to his right, so the 2 houses next to that house, have humongous boulders piled in their sand in front of their houses. And it's listed as this is what homeowners down near the coastline are doing to protect their property. But the water is already washing on to these rocks. When you see that picture, it's just mind-blowing. And then the 2 houses that happen to be in this frame are, again, 2 who have sand. So it's just so interesting to have just these two houses on this short stretch. I'd be interested to finding out. I thought it was Beach Road, frankly, but it could have been another place. It's in Orange County. It could have been closer down to North Beach in that area. But anyway, I will send that to Cynthia for forwarding as well. It's a very interesting article, and there is a lot of legislation. And I can tell you that I've downloaded from the Coastal Commission that was happening yesterday and today. They gave a great legislative report, and so I'm going to print that out for myself and try to summarize. Or if you want the whole printout, I'll send the link to Cynthia, and she can send it to you. I probably won't get that done till Monday or Tuesday, though, Cynthia, that episode. So I've got to do a whole bunch of work on that myself. But we should be aware there's two key bills, SB1 and AB 72, which are the key components of dealing with coastal resiliency and helping cities and helping organizations and helping individuals cope with what to do. You know, it's not just sea level rise at the coast, it's flooding and inlands. It's having railroads that are or railroad tracks that are in the bottom of a vortex. It's like Chris Webb's photo shot, where we saw the train going down the coastline by Cottons, and then in the next picture, years later, with the wave hitting the train. I mean, that speaks loudly of what we're seeing in our what's happening with our environment and sea level rise. At any rate, that's all I have to share with you tonight. And more news will come, and it's just to edify you, not to bombard you with information. But if you see an article in the paper and they start talking about a bill, I want you to know you have access to that information, and I'd be happy to get that for you.
And Susan,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing all that information, because that actually just reminded me that Chris Webb brought up another upcoming opportunity to learn more about, sand preservation and beach nourishment. So March 23rd to the 25th, the American Shoreline Beach and Preservation Association is hosting a virtual conference on coastal, I believe it's just on beach nourishment, and it's their annual coastal summit, and it's all virtual online. And Chris said it would be an excellent opportunity for us to learn more. And I think they're having people from the Corps of Engineers and all kinds of experts there. So that I'll send that to Cynthia, and she could distribute that as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. See, that's the synergy that we're talking about. Getting all these things together and hearing what people are talking about at this end of the state and this end of the state, and coalescing these. I talked to Chris Webb just yesterday or the day before, because I couldn't remember. Tell me which one of you remember the exact title that I suggested that we wordsmith of the committee, this regional committee. I can tell you what he recommended. He thought we said. Hold on. Do any of you recall? Because I kept saying during that meeting, who's got that written down? Cynthia, I think I asked you 15 times. Who's got that written down of the meeting that we're going to call this coalition? For Chris Webb? For the regionalization?
You're asking me? I'm
asking everybody.
Oh.
Remember the title that we agreed on.
I don't think a name has been set. I mean, that's going to be up to the
No. We all voted on one.
That get involved.
No, Cynthia, we all voted on one.
Voted on a name for the coalition?
Yes, with the understanding that it may change after the coalition is fully staffed. Hold on here, just a minute.
I don't remember that.
Well, that's the universal feeling. None of us remember it. But I think he said Southern California. Wait. I have to. Oh.
It was just a generic term.
It was generic, but it was on point. Hold on, I just have to find his thing. I'm sorry to know where he sent it to my Gmail. Just a second. Come on.
Yeah. While we're waiting, I won't be at the next meeting because my youngest daughter's getting married in Santa Barbara.
Oh, congratulations. We'll be thinking of you.
Okay. Think of my wallet, but think of my wallet.
Sorry.
Maybe you can do a B&B.
At least this is the last daughter.
Oh, my. You must be going over a limit. I keep getting slid around. Well, you know what? I cannot find it. I don't know. Let's see where else he would have sent it. Just bear with me because it's so important. Oh, here, maybe it is. Here it is. Oh. And by the way, I did ask him what he was considering Southern County. He said South OC is anything Dana Point and South. I mean, that's a very low. I thought it would be including at least Aliso Viejo or maybe South Laguna even, but no. Hold on. Let me stay here. Oh, hold on. Just a second. Oh. I know he's in here. Right. Oh, South Orange County Regional Beach Sand Coalition. Sound familiar? Remember he was talking about what would we call it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was listening. That's why I signed in right at the minute there to the tape, and he was just about to talk about that. And I looked at my clock and I went, oh, I got to hurry up and sign in here to chair this meeting. So that's what he had. South Orange County Regional Beach Sand Coalition.
Although that's a bad acronym because you can't, it's like SOCRIPSC.
Yeah, I know. I said,
You have to, if you're in government, you're very good at making acronyms. You have to do something like SOCB or South Orange County Beach Erosion Authority or something that people could say. So.
yes, why don't you write that down, what you just said?
SOCB?
No, the authority.
South Orange County Beach Erosion Authority. That's
South OC Beach Erosion Authority.
yeah, so that's SOCB.
Oh,
Although didn't he say it would be good if it was Orange County? If we
Yeah.
got North Beaches too?
yes. He wanted to emphasize Orange County.
But I think it was South Orange County because the northern beaches already, Newport and Huntington are already, I don't think would be all that interested in it.
No, I
Right.
agree. And that's what he said. I wrote down South Orange County.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's backwards for you. So, but I imagine the more players that are involved, we can tweak that. But I just wanted to know that because when it goes to city council, they may want to know what name it is. And I think the way that Cynthia phrased it in there was really almost right off his presentation that he did. And we've referred to it as an AN. So it's a nebulous thing, but it's still a regional group. All right. Well, I just wanted to find that down. Thanks for that contribution, Joreen. If you think of something else that's a little more pronounceable, then that would be helpful with your acronyms.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to add? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to the next regular Coastal Advisory Committee scheduled for Thursday, March 11th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via teleconference.
Thank you, Joe. I need a second.
Yeah.
Who's seconding?
I did second.
Joreen, second. All in favor? Hands up.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for your participation tonight. It was great to have that interaction. Stay safe, wear your mask, have a great holiday, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Everybody.
you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Cynthia. Bye-bye. Oh, let me see. I don't know why I can't hang up. My thing has been hanging up on me all day. So Cynthia, you're still there? I see your face. You still there?
Yes,
Oh, so I will put
we're
that.
still recording.
Okay, I'm going to put those minutes under the mat.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, I'll do it. You're going to pick